Okay, let's dive into this. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. I mean, the name itself, it just brings up so much, doesn't it? Devotion, despotism.
Absolutely. Revolution and, well, repression, too. It's quite the contrast. And that 1979 Iranian Revolution, he led it, completely changed the game. Monarchy out, Islamic Republic in. A huge shift for the whole Middle East.
Oh, right. So what we want to do in this deep dive is really get into the different facets of his life, from, the religious scholar beginnings all the way to supreme leader.
Exactly. And the sources we're looking at, they really cover the whole sweep. His early years, how he started opposing the Shah, that long exile, the revolution itself.
And then the really tough part, consolidating power, the purges, the human rights issues, all of that.
Yeah. So our mission, if you like, is to try and understand how he rose to power, the key moments, and also grapple with those controversies around his rule. Pull out the most important insights.
Okay, so where do we start? Back in Khomeini, 1902, his birth.
Right. And everything points to a deeply, deeply religious upbringing from day one.
And his father died early on, didn't he? Which seems to have just, well, pushed him even further into Islamic studies.
It seems so. He apparently mastered theology, philosophy, really immersed himself.
But here's what's interesting, based on the readings. His writings weren't just like old school religious texts. They started blending traditional Islamic thought with these, well, revolutionary ideas.
That's a key point, isn't it? That combination. It wasn't just standard theology. It had this political edge, even early on.
Yeah, it's like you can see the seeds being planted for challenging the whole system later on, but from a religious angle.
Definitely. Which brings us to the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, mid-20th century Iran.
Yeah, our sources paint a picture of, heavy Western influence, lots of modernization efforts.
But also the Savak, the secret police. Pretty brutal suppression of anyone who disagreed.
Right, and that's the backdrop for Khomeini really starting to speak out. He zeroed in on the Shah's secular policies, didn't he? And those close ties to the West.
Especially the U.S., yeah. He was very critical of that relationship.
And then 1963 seems like a massive turning point. Those speeches he gave against the Shah's white revolution.
Things like land reform, giving women the vote. Khomeini saw these as attacking tradition.
It wasn't just quiet disagreement either, was it? It was public, a direct challenge.
A very direct challenge. And why those specific reforms? Well, it looks like he, and many others, saw them as basically forcing Western secularism onto Iran, undermining their Islamic identity.
And the Shah's response, arresting him, which, looking back, seems like a huge mistake.
Totally backfired.
Yeah.
Our sources say it just sparked these massive protests all over.
And suddenly Khomeini wasn't just a cleric anymore. He was this national figure, fearless opponent of the regime.
That arrest, even though it wasn't super long, it really cemented that image, made him almost a martyr figure for a lot of people.
And it set the stage for his exile, right? 14 years, mostly in Iraq.
Mostly Iraq, then a stint in France towards the end.
Yeah.
A long time away.
And during that exile, that's when his big idea, the Velayat-e Faqih, that really took shape.
Exactly. Guardianship of the Islamic jurist. This became the blueprint, really, the ideological foundation for the Islamic Republic he envisioned.
Can you break that down a bit? What does it actually mean?
Well, essentially it's the principle that the highest religious authorities, the Islamic jurists or faqiehs, should have the ultimate political authority in the state. They're the guardians.
Okay, so rule by the clerics, basically.
In essence, yes. And what's pretty amazing is how he got these ideas out there while he was stuck in exile.
The tapes. Our sources mention smuggled cassette tapes with his sermons.
Yeah, those tapes and his writings, they apparently spread like wildfire inside Iran, really fueling the revolutionary movement. You can just imagine people secretly listening to these messages.
Incredible. And it wasn't just his ideas, was it? Things were getting pretty bad under the Shah anyway.
Oh, definitely. The sources point to, economic problems, people feeling politically shut down, this sense that traditional Iranian culture was being washed away by Western stuff.
So the ground was fertile, so to speak.
Very fertile. And Khomeini became the symbol everyone could rally around, even groups that didn't fully agree on everything else. He was the face of the opposition.
Which leads to that incredible moment in February 1979, the Shah flees.
And Khomeini returns, triumphant. The sources describe these absolutely massive crowds, just pure jubilation.
It really cemented his status, didn't it? Father of the revolution.
No question. He wasn't just a religious leader anymore. He was the revolution in the eyes of millions.
But then, then the story takes a much darker turn, according to our sources.
Yeah, it does. That figure who united so many people Once he actually had power, things changed. A much more authoritarian streak emerged pretty quickly.
Within months, really. Purges starting, rivals being eliminated, executions.
It's a pattern you see sometimes, unfortunately. The pressure cooker of revolution can lead to this intolerance. Suppressing dissent becomes seen as, like, necessary for survival.
And the sources give some really grim examples. That Cultural Revolution in the early 80s.
Right. Shutting down universities, trying to purge Western or un-Islamic ideas.
And the cost for academics, for students, arrests, dismissals, even executions. It's chilling.
Then there was the U.S. Embassy hostage crisis, that whole ordeal.
Lasted 444 days. And Khomeini explicitly backed the students who seized it.
He did. It certainly boosted his anti-Western credentials, standing up to the Great Satan, as he called the U.S.
But the international fallout, huge. It isolated Iran for years, decades even.
Absolutely. And internally, the crackdown wasn't just on abstract ideas. Ethnic minorities, like the Kurds, faced brutal suppression.
And political opponents, too. Leftists, monarchists, even people who'd initially supported the revolution but then disagreed.
Yeah, the scale of the imprisonments and executions in those early years is, well, it's quite staggering when you look at the numbers.
And we haven't even touched on the Iran-Iraq war yet. 8 years.
It's hearted by Saddam Hussein's invasion, yes, but Khomeini refused early chances for peace. He prolonged it.
At immense cost, over 1 million dead, maybe more.
Horrific numbers. And his view of it, calling the war a blessing, a test for the Islamic Republic. It shows a real ruthlessness, ideology over human life.
It's hard to fathom. And then towards the end of the war, those 1988 mass executions.
Yeah, that's a particularly dark chapter. Khomeini issues a fatwa, a religious ruling.
And thousands of political prisoners, mostly leftists and MEK members, are just systematically executed.
Our sources are clear this is widely seen as a real low point, a brutal consolidation of power against any remaining internal opposition.
So putting it all together, it's no wonder his legacy is so incredibly polarizing.
Not at all. He died in 1989, but the debate rages on. Was he the hero who freed Iran?
Or a tyrant who just swapped one dictatorship for another, maybe even a harsher one.
Exactly. Supporters see the liberation from the West, the championing of Islam. Critics see the executions, the repression, the war.
And the system he built, Vilayat Fakhari, it's still the bedrock of Iranian politics today, right? The supreme leader has the final say.
That's right. The structure endures. And those questions about human rights, about authoritarianism, they haven't gone away. They're still major issues.
Our sources also touch on some murkier areas, things less clear-cut, these shadowed secrets.
Yeah, like the role of outside powers. There's still debate. Wasn't there some level of, maybe not help, but encouragement from certain foreign powers during the Shah's fall, hoping Khomeini might be, I don't know, manageable?
It's a persistent question. How much did external factors play into his consolidation of power? Hard to know for sure.
And then there are those rumors, always swirling, about his family, allegations of wealth accumulation.
Which clashes pretty hard with the image he cultivated, right? The simple, austere lifestyle.
It does create a dissonance, though. Proving those kinds of rumors definitively is, well, tricky.
Also, some declassified documents apparently show there were internal disagreements, even among the top clerics, about Khomeini's interpretations, his methods.
It wasn't necessarily a monolithic bloc, even at the highest levels. Suggests internal power struggles and debates over the direction of the revolution. It reminds you that history is rarely simple.
So when you zoom out, look at the whole picture. Ayatollah Khomeini's impact is just immense, undeniable on Iran, on the entire region. History was definitely changed.
Profoundly. And that core tension we keep coming back to, it's right there in his legacy, this powerful, revolutionary energy.
Existing side by side with these incredibly ruthless methods used to keep control.
Yeah. It really forces you to think about the complexities, the often uncomfortable truths about revolutions and the leaders they produce.
Which kind of leads us to a final thought, something for you, the listener, to maybe chew on. How do we square those inspiring revolutionary ideals that can motivate so many with the potential for absolute power corrupting the leaders of those movements?
And what do all these ambiguities, these debated secrets surrounding someone like Khomeini, tell us about how difficult it truly is to get a complete picture of the past, especially when figures are so polarizing?